Returning to the Bruce Collins Show, my guest today is Michael Letts. Michael A. Letts, global security expert, law enforcement expert, U.S. Army veteran, and international relations expert, is the founder, president, and CEO of Invest USA, a national grassroots nonprofit helping hundreds of communities equip police departments with thousands of bullet-resistant vests through education, public relations, sponsorship, and fundraising. A former U.S. Army service member with multiple overseas deployments, he has spent many years working with intelligence, and the website for Invest USA is investusa.org. Again, investusa.org. Michael Letts, welcome back to the Bruce Collins Show.
Well, Bruce, it's always a privilege to be with you. I got to tell you, I got plenty of comments on your show. They loved the idea the last time we did it. I think I was actually mobile at the time, and they thought that was unique, and they were really excited to actually see that I can actually move around as well. Even though I'm getting a little older, I can still move around. So thank you, Bruce. It was a wonderful interview last time.
Yeah, I think that went great. Now, before we launch into new territory, tell us again about your organization, Invest USA. What is the mission of your group?
Our mission is plain and simple. It's to protect those who protect us. So what do we mean by that? When we started this 32 years ago, Bruce, we had 52% of cops who had no protection, no vests, no anything. The only thing they had was if they happened to have been in the service and kept their flak jacket from combat deployment in Vietnam. And that thing weighs like 50, 60 pounds. A little hard to move around all day long with a flak jacket on. So that was the only thing available. So technology was developed called Kevlar, which is a material that helps stop the penetration of a bullet. When you have 27 to 32 layers of it, it'll stop a sidearm. That's all it was designed for. Of course, at the time, 30 some years ago, Bruce, you didn't have a lot of criminals using rifles. You know, most people just stuck a gun down there in the front of their shirt and walked into the convenience store. It was hid. They pulled it out, robbed, and ran back out. But of course, things have changed since then. Now, with the cartels, with the human sex traffickers, with terrorists, so many organizations, they have switched from a handgun to an AK-47, shotgun rifles. They're proud of their thing. Why did they do that? Little side note. Why do they use rifles? They want to inflict terror and panic in the American public. They want us to feel fearful of them. That's their goal and objective, and that's how they go about accomplishing it. So we had 52% that had we call them concealable vests. We got that down to about roughly 18% of the country who still didn't have one. Then with the new technology, with a rifle round will go right through a concealable vest. It's almost as if you weren't wearing a vest at all, Bruce. So we had to stop, develop new technology. This is about 10 years ago. Develop new technology that's called active shooter vests. They have steel titanium-based plates in them. And what they do is they'll stop any rifle round. And so we developed it. Now I say we, I mean, Invest didn't do it. Invest had a big role in saying this is what's needed. But we got a company out of California, out of New York, Buffalo Armory, that developed this technology. Of course, the military was after it. Everybody wanted it once it was developed. And we began to see, okay, how do we get these onto our law enforcement officers? Unfortunately, I have to tell you, Bruce, that while we have been making a dent, we still have 90% of cops across the country who have no active shooter vests. So unfortunately, all you have to do is watch the news for, say, a week, and you will see more breaking news, active shooter in Minnesota and, California, New York, whatever, in a school, in a shopping mall, etc. Understand, Bruce, when these officers are responding to that call, 9 times out of 10, they recognize I don't have something that's going to save me if this goes south. That's a bad place to put our officers. So we're determined. Invest is raising funds to buy these vests for all the officers across the country. We've gotten it down from 100% didn't have them down to 90%. We'll keep working that number down.
Excellent. Again, the website is investusa.org if people are interested in helping you with this task, this very big task. Now, one thing we didn't talk about last time, and I don't know if it's new, but I saw the Broken Arrow Ranch. Can you tell us about this?
Yes, there's a couple new things, and if you have time, we'll talk about one of the others you see over my right shoulder. We've got a graphic novel for our young people. And we'll talk about why that was needed to develop in a minute. Broken arrow, let me tell you how it originated and what the purpose is behind it. One of the key things that we do is we're trying to rescue the sex trafficked children that occurred in the previous administration. Let me give some very sombering statistics, Bruce. Under the previous administration, that's the Biden administration and the Obama administration, yeah, they acknowledge roughly 350 to 400,000 kids are unaccounted for that were brought
Hmm.
across the border that were put into, if they're unaccounted for, Bruce, they're either dead or they're in sex slavery. More than likely, they were put into sex slavery. Some of them have not survived. But they acknowledge 350 to 400,000. Our intel shows us it's more like 750,000 kids went missing. But let's
Hmm.
even take their number, 350 to 400,000. I'm pleased to report to you, Bruce, that we have recovered over 170,000 for those kids just
Wow.
in the last 18 months with this administration. I mean, folks, you may say I can't stand Trump. That's your personal opinion. I mean, you're welcome to that, but you can at least acknowledge and be thankful that we have gotten 170,000 kids rescued from a horrific lifestyle that they did not deserve. They did nothing to get put into, and that's child sex trafficking. So why Broken Arrow? Here was the problem. I have a lot of our special forces and police that are involved in these rescue operations that'll look at me and say, "We are doing the right thing, aren't we?" You say, "Well, of course. Why would you think otherwise? Why would they think otherwise?" Because here's the problem, Bruce. When we rescue them and bring them back, what do we do with them? Now, let me give you some summary statistics. In Tennessee alone, we put them back into the social services, just one state, just Tennessee, what you call Department of Social Services. Every state kind of names it a little differently, but you know what it is. It takes care of, kids, people that don't have a home, et cetera, et cetera. 9,000 out of the 11,000 that we returned to Tennessee were back into the system.
Hmm.
We're sold back into human services. You said, how does that happen in a governmental agency? Bruce, I hate to tell you this, but our system's corrupt. And, they have ways of doing it. Well, I didn't do it. I gave it to this home over here. I don't know what happened to him after we left, and fact of the matter is, Bruce, they do know what happened to him. So, long and short, why did we create Broken Arrow? Broken Arrow is a transitioning stage, okay? We bring these kids to Broken Arrow. We determine that we're going to screen what are the best places for them to go to actually be properly cared for and brought back into society. Two things happen. First of all, we find out from the DNA, we do all the testing. Does this child have any family? Because certainly they would want their child back. If we
Yeah.
find out, unfortunately, we can't locate them, they're dead, whatever, and they're ours, what are we going to do with them? Do we want them back on the street to go back in human sex trafficking? Of course not. We find homes or ranches, whatever it is, places that will care that we have screened, that we know these kids are going to be taken care of properly. In the meantime, while we're doing that, it takes a little time. We're making sure they get the best treatment. We're making sure they get the best counseling. We're making sure they get the best love to know that what happened in the past does not have to define your future. Let me give one exciting news that the mainstream media is not telling you, Bruce, but here is a situation. We deal with the military first. PTSD, okay? Everybody, I think, understands generally what PTSD is.
Right.
There's been a lot of research going on. We've made a breakthrough in discovery with PTSD that when you're under that kind of stress, okay, for continued periods of time, you're in an engaged conflict situation, you're in an engaged mission, it can actually alter your DNA. So when you come back, you wonder why I'm out of the situation. Why am I still experiencing physically all these emotions and all these situational problems that occur? It's because your DNA has been altered. We have figured out how to bring your DNA back to its original state. Why is that important in this conversation? We're taking it to the young people, for these kids. These kids do not have to struggle for the next 30 years with the memories, with constantly fearful, with constantly going back because their DNA throws them into a panic and they don't even know why. Now have the ability to alter their DNA back to its original state to where these kids can have a productive life. New technology, newest thing out, and we are so excited to give these kids a future. But that's why we created Broken Arrow Ranch. It's a transitioning stage, and Bruce, I've done a lot of things in my life, but I can't tell you anything that's more important than taking care of kids who've been captured, put into the horrific treatment of human sex trafficking. Many of those, when I told you the 750,000 that we are comfortable were taken, unfortunately, we think a lot of those we're going to find, but they're not going to be with us anymore. So those that do survive, the least we can do, Bruce, is to give them a productive lifestyle, to know that they're loved, and to help them overcome what's occurred. I'm going to throw one other thing in there. People ask me, why is this such a big deal, Bruce? People think drugs, the cartels, drugs are one of the biggest businesses in the world. It's actually human sex trafficking, child sex trafficking, billions of dollars. And here's a thing that people need to realize: cartels are not stupid kids selling drugs. It is a business enterprise that it rivals any Forbes 500 company. So they're smart. They have gotten into human sex trafficking as well. They know where the money's at. That's what we're up against. But we're winning this battle, and I appreciate everybody's support to make sure that we take care of the kids. That's number one and foremost. And if you see people criticizing this endeavor, it makes me wonder whether they're part of it. Whether they're attempting to try to make sure these kids are not rescued, and what a sad situation it is. Unfortunately, the final thing I'll say on this issue, Bruce, is like it or not, America is the largest exporter of kids in the world. And why is that? Why do you think they all came across the border? Because it's easier for you to export and get things done if you're coming from the United States. For some reason, there's a ship with a U.S. cargo on it. It doesn't get the same scrutiny than if there's a ship with cargo from Thailand or some other place. And so that's why it is the biggest hub in the world, and it has gotten the reputation as the largest exporter of child sex trafficking. We got plenty of it that's being used in this country as well. I must tell you, we have discovered that actually we have some governmental agencies that are facilitating this, that are taking money and putting it in their own offshore accounts or paying themselves. We need to get this animal busted up, broken, and destroyed and save these kids, Bruce.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, people can find out information not only about Invest USA as far as the program with the first responders, but they can also find out about Broken Arrow Ranch at investusa.org in
You're
addition.
right, Bruce. And here's the reason why Broken Arrow is underneath Invest at the moment, because of what I told you. That way I could tell our guys that are rescuing these kids, yeah, we're doing the right thing because we're making sure we know where these kids go when they get here. But the goal is it will be, need to leave Invest and take over, have its own life and do its own thing. But we are honored to be able to be a part to get it going.
Yeah. So tell us about Bulletproof now while we're on the
Well,
Invest
here's an
USA topic.
interesting aspect. You can see it in the back. I'll show it to you in a minute. But with mainstream media, what have they done with law enforcement? They've made everybody think we're the orgs, we're horrible, we're racist, we're thugs, we're bullies, et cetera, et cetera. Uh, they've caused people to hate law enforcement. Now you go from there to the next stage. If you hate them, then Bruce, why are you paying them? So now we created the defund the police movement so that we can remove funding. We're certainly not going to pay you any more than what you're getting now. In fact, we're going to try to find a way to maybe pay you less or work you harder, not give you as much vacation. When that didn't work too well, we still had an awful lot of cops because they're doing it from the heart, Bruce. They're doing it because they care and love their community. When that didn't work, then what did the next step go? Well, if I don't like you and I'm not going to pay you, then why am I giving you new equipment? I ain't going to do that. I mean, you do what you can, what you got. We're not going to give you anything else. So now I'm sending you a message. I don't care about your life. When that didn't work too well, then the next thing we decided to do is, now I know what we're going to do. We're going to fix law enforcement for them. They won't do it themselves. We're going to come in, Bruce, and tell you how to do your job. Interesting that they're going to tell you how to do the job. They've never held a badge. They've never been on the street. They've never been confronted by a criminal, but they're going to tell you how to do the job and how to make sure you protect yourself. You're going to say, well, that didn't work. We told you this is the way to do it, Bruce. Now that you didn't do it our way, let the criminal go. We're going to indict you. We're going to go after you because you violated the policy. So now they're going to try to put our officers in jail. You know what happens to cops when they're in with jail, besides what it costs to bankrupt their family going through the legal process. They're doing everything they can to destroy law enforcement. How did that translate into the question that you raised? What do you think our young people think of law enforcement? If you go across the country, anywhere now, Bruce, any sheriff, any police chief, any agency director, and ask, what's your number one problem? They won't think twice. I can't get anybody to wear the badge. And why is that? Why would young people want to come up and put on a badge when you give that image of the job? They don't. And you're not going to be able to keep the old folks like me forever. I mean, we're dying off. We're getting too old to be able to move. You're going to have to replace us. And so this is a national crisis. This is a national security crisis for this country. If we can't protect this country, then why do you want to live here, Bruce? So we've decided we need to go back aggressively after our young people. You remember we did this when we had the nurses shortage across the country. We went after them in high school. We went after them when they first entered college and tried to encourage them to go into public service and become a nurse, take care of their families, etc. Well, this is what we're doing. We're going after our young people with a graphic novel. Now, what is a graphic novel? Bruce, in my day, we called it a comic book,
Comic
okay?
book.
It was a quarter and like 10 pages long. Those days are over. Now it's much more than a quarter, but it's like 50, 60 pages long. So we have created three superheroes who are first responders. Michael Stone, who is the law enforcement officer, Karen Hart, who is the EMS, and Jimmy Flame, who is the firefighter. They all possess unique powers, shall we say. You'll have to read the graphic novel to find out which one has what. And here's the interesting part about this that I'm encouraging our not just young people, but every parent, every grandparent needs to listen to this. These characters not only help save the day, they do it on matters that are occurring today. We take issues that are causing panic across the world. They're solving those problems. So the people reading this will be up to date on what's going on in national and international news. The second thing is they teach character. This is our total goal behind Bulletproof. We're teaching our young people not only are these law enforcement, first responder positions of honor, and to be admired for the way they serve and love their community, but it teaches them character. Something we're not getting very much of anymore, Bruce, unfortunately, especially with our educational system for our young people. And so that's why we're excited about this. We're just unveiling it. In fact, as you and I talk, we've got it done. We're working out the deals. We want to put it in every school in America, and we're working out the deals now with Amazon and everybody else to carry this product. But we're excited about the purpose behind it, and we think it's going to make a huge influence with our young people, which will save law enforcement and law and justice for down the road.
Let us know when it becomes available, and I'll be sure and spread the word online about it.
Well, I can tell you this: if you go to our website, I know that you got the ability to order and get it on our website through Invest. Now, we're
Oh,
still
okay.
working the deals with the company, but that should be done shortly. And Bruce, I will let you know a list of where people can also go outside of the website to be able to get it if they so desire.
Okay, so they can get it at investusa.org. Excellent. Now, we're coming close to the 25th anniversary of 9/11, and I understand you were at Ground Zero. What was your experience there?
Well, let me explain to you, what we did. Of course, I, like everybody else in the country, witnessed this occurring. I was in public office. I was on council at the time. And as I'm seeing this, we had a council meeting. I adjourned immediately and told everybody to go home. And then I called staff. I said, this is an issue that does not just affect New York. They will not be able to handle this alone. They're going to need the support of America. And so we issue releases saying anyone and everyone who is a first responder who is able needs to rush to the scene and do whatever is necessary to provide the assistance that is going to be needed. Now, interestingly enough, Bruce, a couple of little challenges real quick, a couple of funny stories. You can't rush to the scene. There's no plane service. You remember everybody's been grounded. So we had
Right.
to put together convoys of vehicles, fire trucks, law enforcement vehicles, whatever we could spare, whatever any municipality, any jurisdiction could spare, and go up there and say, we're here. What do you need us to do? Why did we take the risk? I mean, I had called ahead of time, but I knew good and well, Bruce, you can't provide search and rescue. You can't provide security. You can't provide notification for family without massive manpower. And they lost hundreds and hundreds of their manpower in a matter of seconds. So we went up there and we spent, I think it was 7 days, providing whatever counseling. You know, I was also still am a police chaplain, and you know they needed that support as well. They needed to know what I'm so proud America did, that we, despite our differences, we united as a country as we did in World War II and said, you know, forget any differences you and I have, Bruce. We're going together to make sure that we serve and take care of the people who have been devastated in New York. And America did that. My only disappointment in this conversation we're having, Bruce, is it didn't take a tremendously long time for us to forget.
Right.
And you know, we're back at it. You know, divided, et cetera, et cetera. We need to get back to the mindset of what can we do together to make this, to help people and to make this country great once again.
Mhm. Now, I know you saw this. Congress is reopening the MKUltra investigation now. What do you think they will recover?
You know, I did intelligence work with the agency. Uh, let's phrase it, and we'll get to your question. But give me 2 seconds to phrase it so that people understand what we're up against. This is an agency who has operated on its own road for not hours, for not years, for decades, almost since its creation. Okay, it is an agency that has gotten so powerful that it oftentimes undertakes programs that it doesn't even notify or brief the president on. It doesn't tell Congress, who supposedly gives it the money. Yes, Congress does fund it, but here's what has happened over the years. That agency is involved with nefarious activities, drug dealing, things along those lines. They have gotten plenty of money of their own. Do you think they walked across the street to Congress and said, "Guess what we just have been doing? And guess here's the money. Where would you like me to put it?" Ah,
Right.
they got it in offshore accounts that they control. Now to show their arrogancy, and I will use that word, and how they feel they have so much power. The president ordered the director of DNI, who was Tulsi at the time, Tulsi Gabbard, to review files, whether it was JFK, whether it was oh, she had a stack full on, to make sure there had been full disclosure. I think it was we were also talking about the sex trafficker, but his mind just
Epstein.
escapes me. I can't.
Epstein.
Epstein, yeah, Jeff Epstein. And there were a number of other pilots that she had, this being one of the MKUltra K, etc. And when she was out, the FBI walks into her office, which is secure. Of course, they flash the badge. Nobody knows whether to try to stop you or not. They walk in her office, which is double secure, get access to her office in the door, take the files, and walk out. And does she have the files back? Of course, it's a new director now. It's Bill now, Bill Pulte. But no, they just actually took them. And you say, well, the president said, so what are we going to do about it? Who cares? Whether the president said do it or not, they took them back. Now we're working behind the scenes. Don't worry, we're going to get that resolved. But that shows you what we're up against. Okay. Now let's answer your question, MKUltra. That was a huge project, started decades and decades ago. What was its purpose? How can we alter the mind? Now, how did they sell it to Congress? Oh, we're just going to figure out how to aid our military so that we get into combat situations. We have understand the mind better. We can give them some kind of drug. We can play some kind of music. We can do some things that alter their ability to operate. Wouldn't that be awesome? Destroy their army before you even have to get in a hand-to-hand combat situation because we've altered how they function. Well, what did they not tell you? Well, we're going to experiment on Americans. We're going to experiment. We're not going to tell you. We're going to experiment. And so how long is it going to be? Oh, don't know. You know, I don't know how long testing. Testing has been going on for decades. Okay, not for 6 months, not for a small, not for a select. They did their own thing and are still doing, it. And it has caused tremendous harm to many American citizens. That's fixing to come out. Why do you think there is such a battle right now between good versus evil? Because the evil does not want to be exposed. The people that did the evil do not want to be exposed. They don't want you as a taxpayer knowing what you've been supporting with your tax dollars or with illegal activities getting money. That's the key of what is occurring as we speak today. And quite frankly, I think Americans are tired of it. You know, they're just really tired of being lied to. They're being tired of a government that has done operations that they didn't know about behind their back that have been destructive to the American people. And this is not going away uh, in anything, in any sense, Bruce. The American people demand answers. Now, what can we do about it? We'll talk about that when we have the facts in front of us. But we can't do anything until we know the truth. And that, I believe, is all America wants. The vast majority of us. Now, there is a liberal leftist sector that don't want this exposed. You say, why don't they
Right.
want it exposed? Because they don't want you to interrupt that money flow, that illegal money flow, et cetera, because they got their hands. You know, it's amazing what greed will do, Bruce. And when they feel like, hey, man, look at the money I'm getting. Let's talk about the mainstream media for 10 seconds. They've been being paid by programs in the past that the American taxpayer didn't even know. We've had administrations in the past that disguise it as we're paying for news service. Why would you pay for news service when you're the one creating the news? You are the government. But we put
Mhm.
millions of dollars into mainstream media. Now, when the new administration comes in, we ain't doing that. Cut. So why do you think they turned? Do you think that they said, "Oh yeah, you're right. We shouldn't be getting that money"? No. Now they're doing everything they can to remove people from power and to squash any questioning of these programs and activities because they want them back. They need their money. They want it back, and that's just one small illustration of so many people that are stealing. You know, I'll throw this out. Our estimates show we have a $40 trillion dollar deficit in this country. Okay,
Mhm.
inside they tell me that they think roughly 60, 65 to 68% of that deficit was caused by fraud, embezzlement, and stealing from the U.S. Treasury.
Hmm.
Imagine those kind of dollars, Bruce. Imagine what could have been done for this country had we had a little bit of honesty and integrity and statesmanship in our public officials instead of greed and wanting power hungry and wanting to do control on what was best for them. It's sickening
Mhm.
sometimes.
Yeah, it is. And I think when we dig into some of these things, we have to have a dialogue about national security versus classified operations versus constitutional protections. But I think ultimately what we're talking about here is these branches were not accountable to anyone. And so they just used the money for whatever strange experiments. I'm sure there's just horrific things that we could learn about that is going on in secret with taxpayer money. That's the
Correct.
crazy thing. I want to also talk about California right now. I know you've been following the story of the FBI infiltrating Gavin Newsom's inner circle by
Correct.
convincing the governor's ally to wear a wire. What do you
Correct.
make of this? And what do you think we will see next? Is this a broader investigation into California politics?
It is. And how did it start? Well, very simple how it starts. It was you had an obvious issue. You had the governor's wife who created it. Remember, this is how it's done all across the country, not just in California. They create NGOs. What is an NGO? It's a non-governmental organization. That's a fancy word for it's a charity. Okay. They create, you always thought charities, were, hey, we help people. Charities, they create it for so many different issues. And they use these charities to funnel taxpayer money. Congress votes, I want to help California. You say they're sending the money directly? Oh, no, they send it to NGOs who are supposedly supposed to make sure it goes to the right area. They end up keeping the majority of it or giving it to their cronies and their friends. This is what the governor's wife has done. She has gotten more NGOs. I mean, not one, a handful of NGOs that we are discovering that all the federal dollars sent never went to what you said you were asking them for. They went to benefit the governor himself personally, or allies and friends. So we opened up an investigation. The FBI did. They were able to convince one of his former chiefs of staff, or a former aide to a chief of staff was still there, to say, look, we have enough evidence to see your fingerprints on this. Now, do you want to have a defense and have to figure out how you're going to avoid jail time? Or would you like to cooperate and then we can work out a plea bargain to you're still going to be guilty of what you did, but work out, credit for your assisting in the investigation. She was smart. She took, I'll wear the wire, I'll do that. And the more that we have found out, now we're going back in and saying, Governor and his wife, here's some of the evidence that we have. Boy, it's amazing. And this has always been this way, Bruce, with criminals. I've been in my experience for 30 years. When you finally grab a criminal, he says, hey, don't grab me. Look at all the other people. I can tell you everybody else is doing and doing a lot worse than I am. What do you want me for? That's a typical trend, and that is what's happening in California. So it went from one area to now, as you alluded to, it's expanding to, well, what about that program? They stole your money too. What about that program? And at some point in time, I'm telling them we're going to have to kind of say, okay, let's indict what we got, because otherwise we're going to be investigate for the next 50 years. There's so many fingers being pointed in so many directions. But this is how you get things solved, Bruce.
Hmm.
And this is where we're headed in California. Should be done in every state in America because unfortunately, you say, what about the red states? Yeah, I get they're red, but we still have corruption everywhere in this country, and we're going to have to unroot it, regardless of whether you're blue or red.
Yeah, absolutely. And I laughed there when you mentioned that, they might want to stop because it'll keep rippling out. But it's actually not funny. It's a sobering thought
Sobering
that
thought. It
there's
is.
all of that corruption. It's so surreal that you want to laugh. Now, I saw in the news recently Marco Rubio is now in charge of Venezuela's oil reserves. What's your take on that?
Well, and let's define what they actually mean by that when he's in charge. He's making the recommendations. It's not that he actually has the key to the vault or, the code to the vault, but he's making the recommendations as to how to best put those oil reserves revenue, first and foremost, back into Venezuela to benefit the people who've been robbed of it. It's their resources. You say, well, that means we're not getting any? No. And let me tell you before you get all upset, oh, you just stole their oil. We had a lot of military expenses in freeing them from the corruption of the Maduro regime. Don't you think? I mean, I'm glad that we're able to do that, but don't you think we should be paid back at least for the costs that the American taxpayer occurred? And so that's what we're doing. Rubio's making sure that Venezuelans are taken care of, that America's capital can be put back for what we put in this operation, and then we'll go from there. Somebody says, "Or is America going to get benefit by it?" You know, we were making sure that that Venezuela has a presidency and administration that takes care of its people, just like we want here in the United States. Once that's in place, then it's up to the people of Venezuela and to the people of that administration to decide, gee, you did so much to get us in a positive position. What can we do to partner on some other things to continue to mature and grow the friendship and the alliance? So we'll have to see what happens.
Hmm. And we've been speaking with Michael Letts. He's the founder, president, and CEO of InvestUSA.org. And that's a national grassroots nonprofit helping hundreds of communities equip police departments with thousands of bullet resistant vests through education, public relations, sponsorship, and fundraising. He's doing a lot of other stuff too. You may want to check out InvestUSA.org to see everything that's going on with Michael. Last question, Michael. If you could look back in time, if you could project yourself forward and look back, what is the legacy that you hope to leave with InvestUSA.org?
Biggest legacy is that I want America to understand the value of our first responders. It takes special people with special heart to do the job. We need to be supportive. So let's make sure to do that. And the biggest thing I want to do by having made that statement is to encourage America. Everyone can make a difference. we've had a mindset in the past that, look, I'm just going to go to work, come home, lock the door, close the curtains, and just survive. Folks, there's so much more to life. Invest yourself in helping others, and you'll be amazed at the return. I think the final thing that I would say on this, Bruce, is one of the negatives that I've learned is when you get out and try to help people, for some reason, there are those out there that are either jealous or upset or don't support what you do, and they will attempt to say things, do things, malign you, whatever they need to try to do. Don't pay attention to the naysayers. They're not worth it. Make
Mhm.
sure that you invest your life in supporting and helping people. And not only what is it something that I believe you need to do for the life to come, what I believe you'll see when the day you do pass, that there'll be more people packed into that little church for your funeral than it's able to handle. That's how you make a difference. And don't you want to make a difference in the life that you have? Thank you, Bruce, for what you do.
Absolutely.
God bless you. God bless America. We're so proud of your podcast here because you're making a difference for this country.
Thank you, Michael, and I'd love to have you back in the near future. In the meantime, I hope you have a great day.
You do the same. God bless. God bless America.